So, we're going to have another series here with the parking lot minister over the plight of the refugees here that are living literally on the church's doorstep. But the problem is the church has become almost extinct, both in America and in this community. So we're going to be talking about with the people today, with the little children that are sleeping in tents, because this is unacceptable here. Because in less than 30 days, Chicago will have its first freeze, and not much longer after that, Chicago will plunge into at least 3 months of deep freeze. Okay, so what we want to see happen are the unused buildings like this, both the Catholic denomination, the other denominations, Park District buildings, many of the industrial buildings here in the Chicago area that have huge amounts of space in them that are not being used right now for anything. We want to see all this converted into shelter space. But there's going to be one more caveat in this. The work permits need to be issued, whether it takes the establishment of the 51st Ward here in Chicago, which I'm going to sponsor, because people that are living here within the city limits but do not have a place to live, they constitute residents without a ward. So in my reading and understanding of city law, they are entitled to be represented by a ward. And since wards are determined by population, and the formerly incarcerated, the mentally ill, the homeless, and now the refugees, these are people that deserve to be represented by an alderman and to have a ward. So the 51st Ward should encompass all of the Park District properties, all of the vacant buildings, all the vacant land, and that can be set up as the 51st Ward with a member of their constituents appointed the alderman. Also, since Chicago has home rule, and Illinois, Colorado, many states for more than a decade now, decade and a half, have been in full defiance of federal law on drug policy, they need to be setting their own policies on immigration short term. By issuing work permits on a city, ward, or even neighborhood basis, so that people can begin employment while their immigration cases are going through court. This will take the burden off so many other things right now and people. Also, what needs to be done in Chicago is an addressment of a crisis that has really taken up more than 150 years in the history of Chicago, is the disenfranchisement of certain people groups and the ignoring of their plight. So, particularly the fact that we need to have incarceration reform to where convictions can only be used against someone for a 5-year basis or less. If someone is under a felony conviction, whether it is a state or local or federal conviction, not only do they need to be considered for a work program, they need to be moved to the front of the list of people needing work permits and work programs, because without the income, there is no outcome. And the outcome is based on the income. So this is about jobs, not jails, which is the work of Father Greg Boyle, one of my heroes from my time of living in Los Angeles, and how impactful economic employment inclusion is in reducing violence and eliminating economic violence. You know, many of the fake politicians here in Chicago talk about gun violence. They love to use that because it's a tree shaker and it's a moneymaker for them. But the last thing they're ever going to do is change the economic plight conditions, the underlying conditions that create the gun violence, which is truly economic violence. So, with that said, on top of this stagnated multi-people groups, the homeless, the formerly incarcerated, the generationally disenfranchised, the generationally groups of people who have been kept out of an opportunity to build generational wealth through home ownership and through career paths, the genocidal effect of the war on drugs that was really a war on people, which was declared in the 1960s here in America, but particularly in places like Chicago. These are the people who need to go in front of the line. Now, we love that the big, wealthy, poverty industrial complex politicians on both sides of the political aisle in America are making an economic fortune for themselves and are making an absolute economic fortune in side interests. But none of the people we're about to interview or see have any of that and are not included. And now on top of that, we have an entire new group of people here in Chicago that are moving in here at a rate of up to 500 people a day, which is 10,000 people a month being added to the unhoused community. So since we have so much open jail space now here in Crook County and in several of the other adjoining types of facilities, some of these facilities need to be reopened and simply turned into open door housing facilities for the at-risk. The gymnasiums, the school buildings, all of this needs to be worked out to where families with small children, unaccompanied and at-risk young people, and single men and young men at risk can be, well, over the age of 18 or 19, can be also housed in respective types of programs and communities. Well, the Immigration and Naturalization, which is now part of ICE because Immigration and Customs Enforcement and all of these were rolled into Homeland Security, a government agency created after 2002. It is ultimately their responsibility to pay and reimburse all of the services that are being needed right now by the people that are here. This is a disgrace to a nation, and especially a disgrace to where America is. And if you see the purple, I do have my pastoral shirt on today from when I was in the ministry. I'm wearing it. I certainly am. So we're going to spend some time with the people. We're going to